Hey, what's up, 8 Bush Kids? We're back for our first lecture in Period 5, Topic 5.2, Manifest Destiny. Our learning objective today is 5B, explain the causes and effects of the Mexican-American War. Now, today's lecture, we're going to have a few key ideas. And so our first two are right here, key idea number 1 and key idea number 2. First of all, the desire for access to natural and mineral resources and the hope of many settlers for economic opportunities or religious refuge led to an increased migration to and settlement in the West. And key idea number 2 says, advocates of annexing Western lands argued that manifest destiny and the superiority of American institutions compelled the United States to expand its borders westward to the Pacific Ocean. Now, let's just review a little bit what had kind of happened up to this point. So, after the American Revolution, the United States was the area in green on the right over there. However, Jefferson's Louisiana Purchase is going to double the size of the United States. We see Lewis and Clark exploration is going to confirm the economic potential of the Western Territory and are going to start bringing more and more people over there. In addition to this, as we talked about in the last lecture of Period 4, the growth of king cotton and commercial farming is going to lead to the desire for more Western lands. Not only in the North with new inventions like the mechanical reaper, but also in the South with inventions like the cotton gin. In addition to this, we also see improved transportation. Elements such as the American system are going to bring improved transportation, such as canals like the Erie Canal, steamboats, railroads, and this is going to increase both speed and profitability. In addition to this, we also see U.S. population growth at this particular time. The U.S. population is growing exponentially. All right, about every 25 years, the U.S. population is doubling, and we need more and more space. We're also growing in terms of the number of states. You know, we go from 13 states in 1790. Now we're up to 26 states by 1840. And the population of those Western states are exploding. For instance, Ohio's population during this time period between 1790 and 1840 grows from 50,000 to 1.5 million. In the 1840s, then, Western expansion will lead America to acquire all the lands from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean in a movement that's called Manifest Destiny. Now, Manifest Destiny is a key term that you've got to know, and it means the following. Manifest Destiny means the obvious future of the United States. And Americans are flooding into the West looking for new economic opportunity. Advocates for Manifest Destiny will argue for the superiority of American institutions. Now, this painting right here by Thomas Gass, which is painted in 1876, so it's a little bit later, really kind of helps us to understand what was kind of happening and what was going on. For instance, the darkness on the left-hand side really shows the savagery, the undevelopedness of the American West, and you can see the figure in the middle kind of looks a little bit like the Statue of Liberty. Her name's Columbia, and she represents America. She's kind of like the precursor to Uncle Sam, kind of as an image for America. And she's bringing with her all of these things that are progress, right? You see progress shown by the light. You see education. She's holding a school book. All right. You see technology like the telegraph and the railroad as transportation. You also see farmers. You see the American military. You see stagecoaches, all this kind of stuff moving all westward. Now, in addition to this, not in your notes is also religious groups as well. All right, religious groups at the time are also moving west. Probably the most important at this time are the Mormons who are coming out during this time, people looking for religious freedom as well. Which then brings us to key idea number 3. It says the United States added large territories in the West through victories in the Mexican-American War and diplomatic negotiations, raising questions about the status of slavery, American Indians, and Mexicans in the newly acquired lands. Now, in the 1840s, America realized its manifest destiny by acquiring all lands in the Pacific Ocean, and we did so in 3 ways. First, in 1845, we're going to annex the independent nation of Texas. Then, in 1846, the U.S. will settle a dispute with England to gain Oregon. And finally, in 1848, the U.S. will gain new lands in the Southwest by winning the Mexican-American War. We're going to go into a little bit more detail about all 3 of these over the next few slides. So first of all, a little background. In 1821, Mexico will win its independence from Spain, and the new Mexican government will welcome Americans into Texas by offering cheap land. One of the first Americans in the region is a man named Stephen F. Austin, and he's going to become one of the wealthiest Anglos in Texas. Now, one of the reasons why he's able to do so is his owning of land, but also his owning of slaves. Americans, however, refused to accept Mexican laws. They wouldn't convert to Catholicism, which was required. They would not accept a ban on slavery, and they wanted a voice in the Mexican government. By 1834, Mexican President Santa Anna began to view those Anglos as a threat and wanted to have Austin arrested. In 1835, Texans were in open rebellion against the Mexican government. Now, they would fight this, and although they would lose the Battle of the Alamo famously, the battle created the inspiration to remember the Alamo, as you can kind of see in some of these pictures right here, and also developed a few American legends, including the legend of Davy Crockett and Jim Bowie. If you ever have a chance to go there and visit the Alamo, you should be able to do that at some point. However, Texans, led by Sam Houston, will eventually capture Santa Anna, and they'll win their independence in 1836. From 1836 to 1845, Texas was an independent nation. Sam Houston was its first president of the Republic of Texas. Now, in 1838, Houston invited the U.S. to annex Texas, but the debate over slavery kept America from adding Texas as a state. Then, Democrat James K. Polk is going to win the election of 1844, and he becomes the manifest destiny president. Now, remember, that means obvious future, and that future is to move westward. What he's going to want to do is he's going to want to make Texas a state, and so he urges Congress to make Texas the 28th state in 1845. He also wants to end British claims to Oregon that were going on at that particular time. Now, when Texas was admitted in 1845, it comes in as a slave state. However, going back to that Missouri Compromise, right? We need to, whenever we add a slave state, we also have to add a free state. To make those Northerners happy, President Polk wants to add Oregon as a free state. But there's a problem. The Oregon Territory, the territory that you see in that upper left-hand corner up there, was jointly occupied by the United States and by the British government as well. Oregon residents and President Polk demanded the entire Oregon Territory, all the way up to the 5440 parallel. The rallying cry was 5440 or fight. However, we don't fight for that particular, all of that territory, all the way up essentially to what would become Alaska. Instead, we settle with a compromise, and the Oregon Territory becomes part of the United States along the existing 49th parallel. And it becomes a free territory in 1846 to counterbalance the acquisition of Texas at that particular time. Now, when Texas wins its independence from Mexico in 1836, the two sides had disagreed over territorial borders of the Republic of Texas. And when Texas was annexed 9 years later, these land claims were not yet settled. That disputed land is in that red area that's right there. And the disputes over where the border between the two countries are will lead to the Mexican-American War, which will last from 1846 to 1848. Now, we start the war. Let's be clear. In 1846, President Polk will send General Zachary Taylor, old Fluff and Feathers, across the Rio Grande River, which provokes a war with Mexico. Now, we don't need to know much about the war. As much as I would love to tell you about some of the cool battles of the war, we don't need to know them. What you do need to know is that we actually fairly quickly win the war. As quickly as wars are won during this time period. Remember, wars take a lot longer back then. Hashtag transportation issues. And this war takes 2 years, but by 1848, we win not only in northern Mexico, but Winfield Scott will capture Mexico City. There's the Central Plaza in Mexico City with U.S. troops and cannons and caissons there. Not only that, were John C. Fremont's able to win in California, Stephen Kearny captures pretty much New Mexico. This is a pretty successful military campaign for the U.S. military. And so it ends with the Treaty of Guadalupe-Hidalgo in 1848. Now, the terms of the treaty are fairly important. The U.S. is going to gain all of Texas to the Rio Grande River. That's the current border between the United States and Mexico. And we also are going to gain territory in the Southwest. This is called the Mexican Cession. It includes today what is most of New Mexico, most of Arizona, parts of Colorado, parts of Utah, Nevada, and pretty much all of present-day California. Now, a few years later, we are also able to buy that little section, then the brown section of the bottom left-hand side. It's called the Gadsden Purchase, and we purchased it for about $10 million to be able to build a railroad through that particular section. All right, so that brings us to the end of our lecture for today. So a couple key ideas. Once again, America is looking to expand west, and we're expanding west for several reasons. We're expanding west for religious reasons, groups such as the Mormons. We are looking for economic opportunities. And all of that, though, the massive immigration, people moving westward, are advocating the taking of new lands because of our better ideas and our better values. This then leads to the acquisition of new lands through treaties, such as the compromise with England to bring in the Oregon Territory, the annexation of Texas, but also through military activities through the Mexican-American War, finally ending in the Treaty of Guadalupe-Hidalgo and the Mexican Cession, which brings a significant amount of territory into the United States. Polk ends his presidency by accomplishing manifest destiny. The United States goes from sea to shining sea. He ends his presidency as one of the most successful presidents. He said he was going to do three things: that he was going to annex Texas, he was going to take Oregon, and he was going to take the Southwest United States. He did all three and decided not to run for re-election. That's all the time that we have for today. Don't forget to smash the like and subscribe buttons. Until next time, go Pack.